Damien O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm led to believe that the Minister who brought this motion to the House should be congratulated for an award last night. I'm not quite sure, but I saw something he received, and I've been informed that by my colleagues. Mr. Speaker, Labor will support this, of course. How could any party object to the wiser use of a drug that could potentially be misused by young people in this country? It is, however, important to I guess, specify, as previous speakers have, the harm that is currently caused in this country by this drug, ketamine, and I have to say it's at a very low level at this point. And so I applaud the Minister, I guess, for bringing into the House a bill that clearly is, in the case of prevention, is better than cure. And I guess if we'd done this with other drugs, this country would be a whole lot better off. And the previous speaker would have made reference to both nicotine and alcohol. If we were starting from a different place, Mr. Speaker, I'm sure we would have a similar amendment to regulations and to legislation. When I read through the effects by recreational users of this ketamine, it delivers a short duration of hallucinogenic effects. I guess like a very good cup of coffee might, Mr. Speaker. I'm not trying to make light of it, but I think we do have to keep things in mind. It's usually snorted as a powder, so I guess some people pretend that they might be having cocaine. Well, if they stick to this, it might be a good alternative and a way to get their hits. It is a sad reality, Mr. Speaker, that young people and older people resort to drug use, and no matter what we block or make illegal, then there are smart people around the world who will come up with a new kind of drug. And this drug, to be fair, is used at higher levels in Asian countries. That's why I think it is very fair for the Minister and for this whole House to assume that its prevalence could increase in this country. So it's better that we put into place some provisions that make secure its storage. I think that's logical, so that vets and pharmacists have to protect their supply so it can't just be lifted easily, and that we have some penalties for, I guess, the illegal supply. But I have to, and looking at that, Mr. Speaker, and seeing what happens once we have reclassified, then there are some fairly severe penalties here, I have to say. And it does lead to the question, I'm sure many intelligent young people out there will ask the question, because, as I've spoken before, the effects of the use of this are not that severe. It's short-term. And in fact, in the emergency departments across this country, there have been, in the last year, 2 or 3 cases. Compare that, Mr. Speaker, to alcohol. And in supporting this, I put on the table of the House the challenge to the government that in taking the recommendations, the package of recommendations from the Law Commission over alcohol, where doctors, specialists, nurses tell us every week the numbers of people in the emergency departments are in their hundreds, Mr. Speaker, then the careful considerations of the Law Commission must be taken up by the Minister, by his colleagues in Cabinet, and bring back to this House comprehensive proposals and legislation that address the harm, because it would make us look like a bunch of idiots and like a bunch of hypocrites, I have to say, Mr. Speaker, if we did not move on alcohol, where there are hundreds and thousands of people affected every weekend, when we are bringing to this House a perfectly sound, reasonable proposition to reclassify ketamine, Mr. Speaker, that affects 2 to 3 people each year in emergency departments. So let's be consistent. We've moved on tobacco, and I applaud the government for that. I think that was a good move. Alcohol, we've yet to see just how committed this government really is to reducing the harm from alcohol. Mr. Speaker, the penalties are very, very severe here. Any person, if supplied to anyone under the age of 18 years of this drug has a maximum penalty of up to 8 years in prison. That is a severe penalty, Mr. Speaker, for a drug that puts 2 to 3 people in the emergency department. And I compare that back to alcohol, Mr. Speaker. Let's get real here. Let's take the bull by the horns. Let's take the opportunity to address drug harm in this country, and it's upon that minister, all ministers, to bring back to this House comprehensive recommendations. Mr. Speaker, and Labor, in supporting this reclassification here, does so on the basis that we want to reduce harm from the misuse of any drug in New Zealand, and we think that this is a good move at this time, and we'll be supporting it.
The question is that the motion be agreed to. All those of that opinion will say aye. Contrary, no. The ayes have it. Call Government Order of the Day number 2.